Now, in this edition of Battle of the Heroes and Villains, we'll be taking a look at the results of the poll that asked you to grade Captain Rex. We'll then calculate a score for him and see how he compares to all the other characters we've done thus far, before I then read and respond to some comments. And speaking of other characters, you can of course already nominate or vote for which one we do next. Just head down and respond to my pinned comment below with a name, or give a thumbs up if the character you'd like to see is already there. Whichever single comment has the most votes after, about 24 hours or so, will be the winner. Okay, so let's take a look at the results of this poll, where we'll see that 76% of people gave Rex an A, 16% gave him a B, 5% thought he was a C level character, while only 1% gave him a D, and a final 2% gave him an F. And when we do all the math here, that means Captain or Commander Rex ends up with a score of 4.63, which puts him into second place overall, and that is maybe just a little surprising. And don't get me wrong here, I love Rex, I love democracy, but I don't know that I saw him finishing quite so high. But as I was reading through the comments this week, it became clear there was almost a different type of, I guess you could call it, respect for this character. Certainly there were arguments, great arguments made as to why he's such a good character and why he deserves a high grade and all of that. But there was something else in there as well. Again, the only thing I can think to call it is respect or maybe admiration. If he were a real person, I think most people would just want to shake his hand and thank him for his service, thank him for just being him. I think he's a character that, or has a moral code that, most people wish they had. And since in many ways he's more of an average or normal person, he's not a Jedi or anything, it feels attainable, which in turn makes him even more likable and relatable. There's just a type of honor in him that's rarely seen in the real world, and though he's extremely loyal, his loyalty is more to the people around him than just the cause. He's not blindly loyal, I guess you could say. He thinks for himself and always tries to do what he feels is right. I mean, if there was one character you could pick to have at your side that you had to put all your trust in, I think Rex is going to be at the top of the list for many people, and I think that's why he's so high on this list. But anyway, that's enough for me for now. Let's get to some of your comments about Rex, starting, as always, with the top-rated comment, which this week comes to us from Rain Zechner, who said, Captain Rex is one of the Clone Wars' crowning achievements character-wise. He is the embodiment of the amount of depth and characterization the clones received on the show compared to any other prequel-era characters. Him discovering an identity as his own man and not just as a bred soldier for the Republic with his own values manifesting throughout the war is wholly fascinating. We all love Captain Rex. It boggles my mind how little development big characters like Dooku and Grievous received on the show, yet Dave Filoni and his team saw so much potential in the faceless, stark, interchangeable soldiers of the Republic to develop further, but it works so well. Commander Rex rightfully deserves an A. Very well said, and I absolutely agree with you here. And instead of maybe piling on the praise for Rex, which I don't think anyone would complain about, let me give my thoughts on why, say, a character like Rex got more attention than some of the others you mentioned, who were much bigger characters going into the show, like Dooku, for example. And I think that's because it's much easier to work with a blank slate type character, one that's brand new, than within the constraints of a character whose story is pretty much set in stone. I mean, if you're Dave Filoni and you suddenly are thrust into this role of creating a Star Wars show, you might be a bit more hesitant to do something with a character like Anakin or Dooku than you are to do something with a character you're creating like Ahsoka or Rex. That said, there's certainly some great development for some of the legacy characters, and I think there could have and maybe should have been even more of that. But I think the reason why characters like Rex and Ahsoka really shine in this series is because he, meaning Filoni and company, more or less had free reign to do whatever they wanted with these characters. Their fates were not decided, nor did they have to fall into place or in line or conform with how we'd see them in Revenge of the Sith, since they're obviously not in that movie. Alright, our next comment then comes to us from Ian Aston, who simply said, "It's Commander, sir." There was also this comment from Joshua Jenkins, who said, "You really should have waited until the siege of Mandalore was over. I feel like that is going to be the best part of his story. In other words, the best is yet to come." Okay, so first of all here, there were a lot of people who, in one way or another, made mention of the fact that I call him Captain instead of Commander for the poll, And my defense here is that I put this poll up like the day after the episode where he gets the promotion, and I didn't want to possibly spoil that for anyone since it's such an awesome moment. As for the second comment, would it have been better to wait to do a video on Rex until after the Siege of Mandalore? Quite possibly, but he did win the vote, so that's the character I went with. Should I have maybe used emergency powers to postpone this and gone with another character? Again, maybe. But if enough happens with Rex in these next 2 episodes, which is certainly possible, something that in some way changes his character, for good or bad, it might be interesting to see how that changes the way people feel about him in some respect, or maybe if people are upset or happy about the change, because I don't think people will change how they feel about him, really, even if they did something really stupid with him. And moving along now, we have this comment from Splash and Skills number 37, who said, "A great character who simply cares deep about his fellow troops and commanders. I see him as an extension of Anakin's heart in the 501st. And one of the reasons I think I like Rex and Ahsoka so much, why they're both such great characters, is they're both almost a reflection of the best parts of Anakin. You can see the very positive influence he had on both of them, and in a way it makes Anakin's fall all the more tragic when you see the way he could inspire others, that he could shape others to be the best of the best, not just in terms of combat prowess, but as individuals. And seeing Rex and Ahsoka, what he helped make of them, lets us know that Anakin really could have been, and maybe was in some ways, maybe many ways, the greatest of the Jedi. Alright, then our next comment comes to us then from Finn Your Human, who said, "He's one of those characters that doesn't have any bad adaptations. Everything you see him in, he's great." We also then had this one from Nathan Schmitz, who said, "Unlike Luke, Palpatine, and Leia, Rex didn't have many different movies or shows to be in to ruin his character." And yeah, I certainly think it helps that there's only ever been one creative team behind Rex, that being Dave Filoni and company. And this goes back to what I said in response to our top comment. Sometimes when you inherit a character, especially one with a lot of story behind them, you don't know what to do with them, and you may underutilize them, or you may feel so much pressure to do something interesting and or profound that you overuse them, or you just end up doing something stupid with them. I mean, I hate to go back to this for the millionth time, but Luke in The Last Jedi is an example of this. I think Rian Johnson felt a tremendous amount of pressure to do something unique with Luke, especially since the previous movie, The Force Awakens, was all about finding him. And so he subverted our expectations with the character, which some people enjoyed, while others did not. Anyway, let's not get into all that again, and instead move on to this comment from Ahsoka66, who said, "If they retcon you into Return of the Jedi, you have to be a very well-liked character." And putting Rex into Return of the Jedi is probably the greatest retcon ever, though I hate to even call it a retcon because that oftentimes has a negative connotation around it. It's just so cool to know that he fought and lived through it all, that he was there from the start of the Clone Wars till the end of the Galactic Civil War, and hopefully got a nice little retirement afterwards. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it is confirmed that Rex was part of Han's strike team at the Battle of Endor, that the character originally called Nick Sant was again retconned and turned into Rex. And maybe one of the most interesting things worth noting about that is it means that, in a way, Rex flew into battle with Anakin's son Luke. Even though Luke didn't exactly participate in the ground battle of Endor, he was pretty busy elsewhere. And furthermore, I think it's interesting to ponder what Luke and Rex may have talked about on that trip, or on the way to Endor, or even after they landed and explored the jungle. It's awesome to think Rex could have told Luke some old war stories about Anakin, about the type of person his father used to be, which only reinforced Luke's faith in his father during the final confrontation with Vader. And to me, thinking that Rex may have played even a tiny part in bringing Anakin back to the light is a pretty amazing way to cap off this character's story. Alright, let's get to just a few more comments now, starting with this one from Captain DC, who said, "Before the Clone Wars, I assumed that clone troopers were just soldiers who followed orders and eventually became stormtroopers. But clones like Rex showed me that they weren't just soldiers, but human beings as well." Then this comment from Dark Ren, who said, "He was the character that made us love the clones and separate them from just expendable soldiers. Before the Clone Wars, there was nothing different between clones and droids. They were both mass-produced and no one cared when they died." We also had this comment from Jalda, who said, "I'm still amazed Clone Wars managed to make clones characters with a personality and character the audience cares for. I also think you shouldn't forget his Rebels appearances. They weren't that special, but it was still nice. Easily A. Next up, this comment from Ryan B, who simply said, "It's amazing how all of the clones have different personalities." And if I may interject, that is mainly because of the amazing work of D. Bradley Baker, who voiced all of the clones. And finally here we have this comment from Chris O'Flynn, who said, "In my book, Rex outranks everyone." And well, you're certainly not alone in feeling that way, considering he is currently our second highest rated character, only behind Kenobi, who I don't know that anyone can top. And I think it all goes back to what I said before, that there is just a profound amount of respect or admiration for this character. People want to be like him. And even though he certainly got some D's and F's, there was no one who really tried to make an argument against the character in the comments. And I don't know how or why you would or could, because he truly is one of the best of the best. Well, that's all I've got for you this time. Now it's your turn to tell me what you think of Commander Rex, or what I or anyone else had to say about him in this video, or feel free to nominate or vote for what character we should do next. Either way, leave a comment below and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.